Good evening and welcome to African Voices platform. My name is Tchiyiwe Chihana. On the 12th of August, Zambia goes to the polls. It's holding its general elections and subsequently will usher in its next president and vice president. The United Party for National Development is the current main opposition party in Zambia, with Mr. Hakainde Hichilema contesting for the presidency. His running mate for the office of vice president is Mrs. Mutale Nalumango, a veteran in Zambian politics and notably a long-standing member of the United Party for National Development. I'm so excited to be speaking to her and to understand the strength it has taken for her to remain in the party and to become a symbol of stability for them. So welcome to African Voices platform, Mrs. Nalumango, and thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening. It's breaking. That's the problem. I miss a few words, but thank you. Good evening to you. It's a pleasure for me to be hosted by you, African Voices. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And now, the common language that's been associated with you since being announced as the running mate includes words such as stability and loyalty. And I remember growing up knowing your name from the MMD government, which speaks to a very long career in politics. You've been appointed vice president of the United Party for National Development. I think that was in February. And yes. When you got appointed, when you were named as the running mate, Mr. Hichilema said, "She wasn't my choice alone. I listened to you all. She's Mutale Nalumango, and she's the next vice president of the Republic of Zambia." What does that say about this language around stability and loyalty, and what did he mean?
Wow, I wish to ask him, because it is what did I understand rather than what does it mean. Really, I did understand that what he meant was there were other members of the party that felt that I could be the vice president of the party. We had just come, remember, out of our intra-party elections, which was not electing positions. I am not saying exactly it's who got the highest, but even in that kind, there was a kind of, people expressing themselves, because in the intra-party, which was held in provincial headquarters because of the COVID-19 challenge, aggregated figures, I got the highest. So probably used that to say it wasn't just me, but I also don't know who speak to him. And you are saying it brings in stability. It's not easy, Chewe, for a person to say, yes, I bring stability. But I think basically as a woman, which I think many women should be, we are people that speak to our choice. We don't just jump into something and you jump out. I don't think it's really a characteristic of a woman. A woman takes time to decide. I did decide, like you said, from MMD. It took me a bit of time, at least over a year, for me to say, I am moving on to UPND. And I've never looked back, because I still see what drove me there. The values that, were indicated in their documents, the manifesto, and also the Constitution. And I always refer to one statement that caught my eye and stuck into my mind, that the party in power would strengthen institutions of governance. Right. I just said, that's my home. Because I don't believe that power should be in personalities. Power should be in institutions, so that there is proper checks, balances, implementation or enforcement of laws and regulations. That is one thing that drove me to UPND. And when I saw the development agenda, it wasn't too different from what I had believed in as the MMD. The implementation could be different, but the ideals, the things that we wanted to do were very, very similar. There was no exaggeration of things. So that is how I chose that this is the part for me. And I saw my MMD, the way I knew it. I saw it crumbling. I thought I would retire, but I still felt I could contribute something. And the only vehicle that I saw suitable was UPND. And there hasn't been change since I joined for, to force me out to make other decisions. So maybe that is stability, if you want to say. I am not one who says Tchiyiwe today and tomorrow is Mulenga. It is, what you believe in. Work from within to do the best you can to change if there is need, or to reinforce what the grouping stands for.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for foregrounding that, and also especially that you highlighted the role that women have actually been playing in politics. You were also the first woman to hold the position of Deputy Speaker in the National Assembly in Zambia, is that correct?
That is correct, dear.
That is correct. Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So this gives you quite a lot of insight into what being leader of the government of the House is going to be like. What are your priorities going to be should you be elected?
Yeah, except as a parliamentarian, as the vice president and the parliamentarian, you have very little agenda yourself, other than agenda driven through questions, because it is just the clarity that you bring to the people that ask questions, particularly questions or to the vice president who has time to respond, so that you are not really setting the agenda. But for us as a party, the agenda you have seen, number one, if you look at our manifesto, is once again unifying our country, bringing unity, because we have been, what is the right word in English? We are actually polarized as a people. Suddenly, Tchiyiwe Chihana should be Tchiyiwe Mulenga rather than Tchiyiwe Chihana. I hope you understand what I mean. Tribal issues coming, it's painful for a person like me, because I'm a Zambian and I didn't grow up in an environment where we looked at each other through tribal, regional. So what for us as a political party coming into power, if you look at our agenda through the manifesto, number one, we should try to work to unite the Zambian people, and it will be deliberate. How do you unite? That is treating everybody equally.
Right.
If there is equality in treatment. But that means every Zambian should have their space, irrespective of where they come from, whether it's in government, whether it is in parastatal, whether it is in forest, anywhere. People are people. You see individuals with capability. They should not be seen through the eyes of a tribe, because then you end up misplacing people.
Yeah.
This has been happening. So for us, that's number one. We do that. In the House, I hope that even the Speaker of the House will allow for this agenda, should not allow debates that bring division. So that is something. But more importantly, we want to see the resources of our country used properly to enable for individual development, which will lead to our national development. We are rich as a nation, but poor as a people. It's not acceptable.
Yeah, I would actually like to get into that a little bit more, but before I move on to that, there's a question related to the tribalism, tribal politics angle that I really want to delve into. It's not a secret. It's highly charged out there, and especially now as we're getting towards the elections. So just as I'm speaking to you at the time of interviewing you, you've just come from a peace dialogue discussion of some sort nationally. Yes. What progress have you made? What was discussed, and do you have hope that we could have a pathway towards some peaceful form of elections?
If you followed today's event, it was more of signing rather than a discussion. That is the way I saw it myself. Basically, I believe that the conveners must have had an opportunity to speak to different people, culminating into today's signing. If you follow some of the things that were observed, you will see that harmonizing tribes, or looking at each other peacefully without using tribal or indeed any other violence. I think that's what it led to. Because violence, as you know it, Tchiyiwe, you probably know better. If I think of it, try to enter my brain and see, what am I saying? Violence is not simply what we are seeing, beating people.
Yeah.
There is violation of our personality. There is violation, that you can't really see, subtle like tribalism. That is a terrible kind of violation of one's rights. So there is violence in, so many ways. So these things have been spoken about. But what you see today is that for us, we brought out what brings, how can we ensure that there is violence-free, there is peace. There are benchmarks that must be met for us to say yes, because we have tried to do this for a long time, but it has not worked. We thank God for today that people have appended their signature. Of course, the Republican president has not appended his signature personally. He saw it fit to attend to something else that can blow into fire if violence is not quenched. To me, he should have prioritized this issue. But of course, he sent his Secretary General. But with the commitment of other political parties, we went on to sign the peace accord, or call it peace accord, so that people can observe. But you are right. This thing of violence has become unprecedented. It keeps escalating until we have reached this level where young people can be fired from work because they carry some name. And because of the name, you believe that they belong to a political party and therefore can be fired from a government institution like a hospital. A young doctor like yourself of 35 can be fired from any institution. This is unprecedented. We are reaching extremely dangerous levels. And that is why we should be all careful.
Is that also speaking to what you were talking about at the very beginning of this call, when you talked about our institutions? They're not strong enough, they don't have process. It's the systems in place that do not serve the people. I suppose that's what this could be, isn't it?
Exactly, that's what you're saying. Because if institutions had their own, of course they have legal powers by their creation, but there is too much interference and they don't operate. Look at ECZ. They don't seem to operate independently. It's like they are being pushed from, by some invisible hand in making decisions. I don't want to go so far. You feel sad being here in Zambia. You feel sad that institutions are not doing their work. Whether it is a FIC, financial intelligence report, they'll just throw it away. Whether it is DEC, it is selective in who should be, investigated. Even when people are investigated, it depends on who you are to be taken to trial. It's a mess. A minister flying a flag with serious allegations will be going to court with that flag. Come on, tell me. Can honestly a civil servant in my ministry, like you said, I was a minister, go and start testifying against me while I'm occupying office? Will that be fair to that poor, civil servant?
But so it's, let's say this is day one. We have Mutale Nalumango winning the election. This is day one. You want to fix the institutions and all these failures of the institutions. What's the first thing you think you're going to do? What's your deliberate strategy?
It's the easiest of things because the people, they are professional enough. Many of them should be professional enough. Maybe let me not say they are, because some may be political, appointees. But generally, you expect professionals to handle professional institutions. Just let go. Allow the institution to operate professionally, whether it's the police. Then you will see the real issues coming out. You don't go there, one, to try and, be vindictive, because that could be the first thing. You go and it's you who is deciding, arrest that one and that one. For us, no, we have said no to that. If anybody will be arrested, it must be decided by the institution, the law enforcement institution itself. And that is the beginning. When people feel they are doing their work and everybody sees the fairness in dealing with issues, do you see equity here? Equity comes in and the peace starts to come in. I will not be victimized because I'm Mutale. I will not be victimized because I come from a wrong region. That is the beginning of seeing things, professionalism in institutions of governance. That's what we need. Not when a person can stand on an anthill and say, what do you expect these judges to do? I appointed them.
Right.
You have blown everything into pieces. To me, such a statement is saying, stop going to court.
Okay.
So that is what we will not do. Okay. And I believe that my president will not and should not do that.
Right. Okay. So apart from these sets of problems, institutions and peace, there are other challenges that Zambia is currently facing, as reported by the African Development Bank, for example. We're talking about high levels of inflation, macroeconomic challenges, widening fiscal deficits, and obviously, when you look at the JCTR's basic needs basket, how much was that? Is it about 8,442 kwacha 24 ngwe is a family of 5 will need to have in order to feed? Those are really extreme. I mean, those challenges are very difficult for the everyday person out there. What are you going to do about it once you start?
Yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of work. That's why when you are appointed, like myself, a running mate, it is not something to make you excited and say, well, unless you don't want to work, you just want to be called some title and probably get your salary. But when come to think of the work that lies ahead of us, it is frightening, but somebody has to do it. Somebody has to do it. You have talked of, for example, basically in my language, not economic language, it is escalating prices of commodities. That includes foodstuffs. And somebody can start comparing this country to another. Here it is this and here it is that. Come on, do you know the levels of the salaries? In Zambia, when you talk of 8,000, those are high professionals that are getting that. What of all these people that simply do jobs? Their highest salary would be 1.5, and they have families more than 5 people. Are you honestly thinking of such people? That is a serious challenge. You have talked of the physical, deficit. It is unexplainable. It is terrible because all these things come from carelessness, including, reckless borrowing, which has brought us to this kind of debt. So that now to pay off the debt is impossible. We are defaulting. I hope you know that. We are defaulting. And if we are defaulting, then we can't meet even our daily budget. Local, you can't. And you can't borrow sincerely. So who are we? The economy is in a mess. I'm not an economist, but it's in a mess. Because the economy starts in my home. I can see the challenges in my home. So don't start talking about another country. We are Zambia endowed differently. What are we doing with our resources for us to fail? Even the COVID effect on our economy is a great escape. It is basically something to hide in. It is not real. Our economy has been collapsing, going down.
Yeah, I definitely absolutely agree with you, but I'm just wondering if we've got people watching this show and they want to vote for you. The challenges are very obvious. We're feeling the pain. People on the ground are feeling the pain. I'm trying to understand how you think, because you have said carelessness is what brought us here, recklessness. How do you mitigate carelessness? What do you do about it?
There are 2 things that are under this carelessness, things that I'll remember this moment. For example, there is need to work on the debt service. How do we handle it? We have talked of restructuring. There's nothing we can do. The lenders know where we are, how difficult it is. But as a nation, when you inherit debt, you don't just say we didn't borrow. That means we also, inherit that debt. So we need to renegotiate so that we can probably restructure. Colleagues, I'm trying to be as fast as I can. Colleagues have been borrowing from commercial lenders. That is extremely expensive at a very high interest rate. And for us, we have been saying right from inception, when this borrowing started escalating, we said, but why? You can borrow. Nobody, no nation can say we'll never borrow. We would not cheat as I sit here that we'll never borrow. But you should borrow what you can pay back and find the sources that are cheaper. They chose to go commercial with a lot of interest. I have my own interpretation, whether it's the economists who say that or not. To me, they borrow from commercial market because no commercial lender will follow their money.
Yeah, right.
They will wait for repayment with high interest.
I'm thinking that explanation, usually sometimes these economist explanations go above our heads. So I think you talking to us just from a humane perspective is probably what people will
just a mother, a woman in a house.
Yeah.
So they borrowed because those commercial lenders could not follow. You said you build a road. Where is the road? They feared to borrow from multilaterals, colleagues, nationals, other nations. They couldn't borrow from multilateral because those will follow and see, are you doing the right thing? But commercial lender will not follow. And at the same time, they would get commissions. So it was all about selfishness. This is how we got here. So this is the weakness. The other weakness that we must, so for us, I hope I've said something, that we will need to renegotiate the debt. We will need to restructure the debt. In restructuring, we may need to find cheaper sources to replace this high interest rate, debt, so that our what do you pay back or whatever repayment schedules become less and more favorable. That is one way, which colleagues would find it difficult because they are the ones who have brought us this far. And the lending institutions and nationals are now worried. They are wondering where we are putting, these resources into this bottomless pit, where we don't see what comes out. So that is one way. Another way to start, tackling the issues of general economy is there has been a lot of corruption. You can buy a fire tender of probably even 350 or 400,000 US dollars at 1 million, a difference of 600,000. Come on. Can you just imagine that? And it is not one that is bought. That is big money that should go into the economy, either productive sector or even the social sector where people are cushioned. So that is another way. There is also another way of wastage. Wastage is not necessarily corruption or stealing, but wastage where people can travel anyhow, and in numbers, unnecessary spending government resources. If you're going to travel every month with huge entourage, that is wastage. I'm just giving one example of each. Yeah. So it is those issues, for us to start growing this economy, we need to mend the bleeding point, hemorrhaging of our resources into wrong hands. Of course, there is pure theft. When we block all those, do you see now money staying in the economy, and therefore we start tackling the different issues, and then you start seeing the inflation going down. You start seeing the kwacha appreciating because we have it. We are also thinking of the manufacturing industry. I can go into a number of little things as examples. If we have some big, for example, look at agriculture. We can tackle agriculture in a way, from one point. If, for example, we develop, the manufacturing of fertilizer in our country, do you see it is tackling both the economy, and employment, and also agriculture. So we have a lot of wonderful things, and I hope you do have a copy of our manifesto.
I've got it to hand, but I think I would benefit more from you telling me. I would really want to hear.
So those are some of the
and so with that one, I think the the last one you talked about in terms of agriculture, for me, that speaks to upstream solutions to poverty. Like, what can people also be empowered with so that they can contribute to eradication.
You know that our country has wonderful arable land.
Right.
Plenty. You know that we have beautiful rain. We are still among the blessed few where rains have been coming moderately. And therefore, we are talking of diversification so that people don't just grow maize for food. They can also go into cash crops, including things like soya. But we must find the markets for them. That becomes our duty to ensure, we can interlink. You grow soya in Luapula province. You don't have to bring it to Lusaka. You have an industry there which can produce even cooking oil from soya. You can create, you can have feed. You can still do things within Luapula province where people can have sustainable, livelihoods.
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much for that. I did have a question about parliamentarians in the opposition and, those challenges that you've been bringing in, like the fire tenders. What power do they have in challenging that or taking that to somewhere where such decisions can be reversed at all, if any? You have quite a significant number of MPs in parliament.
Yeah, it is the way the parliament is also structured and the powers that be. That's why you saw Bill 10 trying to completely do away with parliamentarians in the contraction of date, which we refused. Zambians thought we were bad, but you can't look, we are looking for power also. So we wouldn't stop something that will be helpful to Zambians. But for us, we want to ensure that the law, the constitution as it is followed. Right now, colleagues have borrowed illegally without parliament coming in. I am sorry to sound like this. Anybody listening to me, particularly those that belong to the Patriotic Front. Patriotic Front has acted in a very unlawful manner. To me, they are a law-breaking organization because they have borrowed without waiting or without consulting parliament. They don't care.
What's the legal recourse? If we're saying it's illegal, what's the legal recourse? What's the path to a legal outcome for this? If, as you say, they have committed crime, why is there no legal challenge at present?
Go back to what drove me to UPND. Institutions are weak. Institutions are weak. And therefore, you don't have a recourse. You don't know where to run to because the executive is so powerful and deliberately so that because they don't know where are you going to go, where they will not get support. As a result, we are in a helpless situation. And therefore, through you, Chewe, you are in the diaspora. Those that are in the diaspora, I wish they could come home and vote. But if you can't, tell your relatives to vote wisely. Somebody asked me today as to what has brought us this far. I said, we have brought ourselves this far because we vote like it doesn't matter. We vote like it doesn't matter. We even vote for relatives who can't. We can't continue on that path because we need to bring in responsibility where law, you have heard us saying what we need other than law and order. We are saying justice system is broken and also what is the right word? Basically, there is no rule of law. It is each man for himself, depending, they call them paper, those that are, people that are, known by the politicians. You can't run a country like that. Neither can you.
I'm so mindful
recourse
that you need to go. So can I just squeeze in 3 more questions and I'll make sure that you go on time, if that's okay.
It's okay.
The next one is actually related to the diaspora community because you have a big diaspora engagement with our show. what are your plans for how the Zambian diaspora community could be properly integrated into what's happening at home, and also vice versa? How can the diaspora community of Zambia benefit you as a party in government should you be elected?
Yeah. Yeah, one, there are many benefits that we can, including financial benefit. You will remember that if you remit, your remittance home, in whichever form, helps to grow the economy, helps to keep the economy. So we will call upon you that home is home. We come into government, whether it's your property, whether it is your privacy, we will respect the human rights and your rights. And therefore you will feel safe to invest at home. You should also feel safe to come back home. It's a call, because where you have gone, you have acquired a few more skills that we may need here. We will call upon you. If you can, please come home and help us develop. This government we are going to form on the 12th, after the 12th of August, will be all inclusive, and we will look for people that can work. So that is one way that you could, help, Zambia. Don't keep your special skills. Now, there are many things you can do, even staying there, to influence our society, your country. There are things you could look today. You and I are talking. You are the clever people with clever gadgets. We need your skills here, whether through the air, you know what I mean, or physical. We need you. This will be home to admire. Nothing that you bring in will be wasted. This is what we are committing to, that there will be no wastage, no corruption. You don't have to go through and spend more than half of your investment on bribing officials. We will part company with such officials. So home is here. The Zambians in diaspora. We believe Zambians giving us an opportunity. It will be attractive for you to come home, because home is home. But we appreciate those that have kept you, particularly some of you are economic refugees. We thank God that you have been there. The little you send in helps us, and we have to be accountable.
Thank you. That invitation is noted. The question I had for you, the second last one, is around, you were talking about, you call them PEP, people who know politicians or the like.
Yes, exposed to politicians.
So you formed a very strong alliance this year. We rarely see alliances being successful in Zambian politics. So you've got people like Kevin Waliafube, Felix Mutati, Charles Milupi. I don't know if Mr. Mawoshe is still part of it, but I mean, the general idea of that alliance, especially at the time of the filing in your nomination.
Yes,
yes. How is that alliance going? And does it carry any sort of burdens on your part to honor some portfolios towards them?
Definitely, it should. Definitely, it should. It's not easy to bring people and then you say, just get away. It is what is in it for them, because they do ask. Remember that they too, some of them have manifestos, maybe some have constitutions, but the hour we came didn't give us an opportunity to do enough comparisons and merge our thoughts in terms of development. And remember, it's an alliance, not a major. So it's an alliance for a purpose. We are coming together to work together to ensure a new government comes into office. And for them to influence, they may need certain positions, or even a council of elders, or a council of whatever term you may use, to help direct the path of development. So there is something for them. I know alliances don't easily work, but in politics, you hardly chase anybody. You need everybody. If everybody, including PF, can come to our alliance, we will accept them, because it will help us, start, the purpose is to start afresh. Do we want to continue on this path? If we do, then let people remain scattered. But if we don't, even today in that alliance, in that, accord, I went to speak to one grouping. I said, look, you don't even have, candidates everywhere. Why can't you work with us? Why can't you support us where you have no candidates? Because you are complaining that we are what victims of this. And you remain victims because you know you won't make it. So why don't you encourage your people? That is the kind of alliance for a purpose. Okay. And the purpose is to win elections with their presence.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you for that one. The very last question that I wanted to ask you was related to your career. So you started out as a teacher, and you've also served as the Minister of Info. So if you could tell me, just as in closing, what your vision is, should you win the election, what your vision is for the education system in Zambia, what you could change. And then in responding to your role as former Minister of Information, I want to bring in the Amnesty International report that was recently released about Zambia. They called it Ruling by Fear and Repression. And this report actually detailed how the rights of freedom of expression and peaceful assembly have come under increasing attack, opposition leaders and activists being jailed, as well as independent media outlets being shut down. So if you could tackle those two aspects from your career and your experience, and how you would handle those if you were elected.
Too many things, Joe. I hope I'll remember them all.
Education, information.
Not labor. Okay. So yeah. Well, I'm a teacher, and I'm sitting here and saying, is our system really working properly? Yes, we have used it, but I think we can move to what I'll call now development education, or education for development, not for memory, but development, so that we can start, for example, in our system, other than giving free education to the vulnerable, that must be there, because education is the equalizer of Mutale Nalumango from a village in Kaputa. And I abuse my brother, Panji, to be a friend of Panji. I'm not saying we are personal friends. What I'm saying is we can sit at the same table, a villager, and at that time with somebody with an opportunity to be a son of a president or of a minister or whoever, just because of education. That's why I'm sitting here. I was born an orphan. I'm no longer an orphan because I'm too old, but I was orphaned very young. So we must never forget the orphan. We must never forget the child of a single mother. We should not forget the child of a person with disability. We need to carry them. That is the education. But only the actual content, we would want to start identifying skill early and give life skills so that people can make progress in the areas of interest. That's our thinking in this matter. That is in education. Yes, in information, I was Minister of Information and Broadcasting Services, and therefore Chief Government Spokesperson. I did a bit of that. And yeah, the report is completely true. Colleagues will say it's not true, but this is true. In my time, we are the people, MMD. Remember that before MMD, we had ZNBC, which today is not in the hands of Zambians. Let them not cheat people. Where do you give a national broadcaster to people you don't know well? Come on, I can say many things, but it is MMD that liberalized the airwaves. So I was in that era. Rather than the era of closing, I was in the era of giving licenses to people to have community radios, and mainly it was radios. There was very little on TV in my time, but we had a few, TV stations, but we liberalized. That's what we were. And we disseminated information. We monitored, of course, the dissemination of information, but the issue that has been brought through Transparency International is so true. Today, it is really rule by terror, because all, houses, media houses have to look over their shoulders. And sometimes they tell you, Mom, here, even our phones have been taken now, they're checking them. Come on. We have had wonderful media houses closed because they were seen to be too close or disseminating information that to them was, was not friendly to the ruling party. But that's not what you do. Let people speak. There is the freedom of expression. Of course, media freedom. If the freedom of, information itself, where is it? Why do you want to hide? Yes, there has to be, whether it's in America, there is a level of information that is not published daily. That's why you say they have degazetted or whatever terminology they use. Even as Minister of Information, even now, I wouldn't say everything must be thrown to the public. It is not like that. But why should you stop a radio station? If they have, mismanaged one piece of information, why not deal with that? And yet there is nothing. You can close a media institution which says, pay us, we are doing a service. But it's because you have been following them, you want to get rid of them. This government has done everything wrong. This Patriotic Front government has done everything wrong regards the media. We intend to make with the media, which is the fourth estate in the country. We need to work with them so that people can make informed decisions on everything. You see, if you don't allow many media, you are empowering social media, which can mislead completely because the regulation is not easy as to the level where we are. So it's unfortunate, but we are looking to the 12th of August next month that Zambians will make the right decision and vote Hakainde Hichilema and his team of MPs. Of course, I'm the running mate, but let us really decide for our nation. Let us not vote for who you know. The one you know will not be the one to send your children to school. You need a policy that is blind to who you are related to. So, Tchiyiwe, these are some of the things I can think about. Ministry of Labor was wonderful for me. If you want to, I was very happy.
Yeah, you can talk about that.
It was real life. I personally would do crazy things and go, to some industries, some, you find people are locked in. How do you lock people in? I totally refused such behavior. I refused the issue of employment agents who became actually masters and owned the people. I called it slavery, employment slaves, where the agent permanently is the one who gets money from the company permanently and is paying the workers. Where is their social security in this matter? Whom do they go to? Who negotiates for them? I said, no, employment agency, even as the law was then, was for a situation where a person can employ, of course, will get a commission from the employee and leave them to work with their employers. So I stood and the law was on my side. I don't know where they are today.
Right. Well, thank you very much. It's been very enlightening speaking to you. And I know you're busy with campaigns, so be safe out there on COVID. We need all the women leaders as much as
indeed. We will try, that God remains with the rest. We are always careful, and I am even sprayed with the sanitizer sometimes.
I'm pleased to hear that. Well, this has been African Voices Platform. I've been speaking to the UPND's Vice Presidential Candidate for the Zambian elections taking place on the 12th of August. Good.